I know Instagram's owned by Facebook, I get that, but for some reason Facebook just shut me off right in the midst of a live. Gone. So I don't think they want you to hear this. So I did it on Instagram because usually they're a little slower to shut this down. Listen, who cares about coronavirus? Quit your job, wear a mask if you have to, tell them you got the Johnson & Johnson, one shot done, forge a CDC verification. Who cares, okay? That only affects people that don't know how to think for themselves. This affects you and me, the people that actually understand how health and life works. So I'm going to get into this very quickly. I need to give you a real quick pre-frame. There is a plan in place. There is an agenda. If you are not aware of that, I mean, you've been under a rock. But if you haven't looked into it, look up the Great Reset. Look up the 2030 agenda plan, whatever. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. I'll put some links in my next email. If you haven't joined my email list yet, it's just go to www.drstephenbaker.com and click on the link, join email list, send me an email, whatever that button says. Anyway, bottom line is they want to control you. And so I've been struggling with why do they want to control you? Talked to my wife, and she had a pretty good viewpoint. Listen, the world is controlled by Satan. And ultimately, Satan uses people to fulfill his plan. And if you can kill a bunch of people, you can lie to a bunch of people, and you can control people, well, that sounds like a pretty good plan if I was Satan. So ultimately, the way you control people is you control the energy. What Joe Biden's doing right now, check. By the way, he just works for them. Like, he's just a puppet. All these people are just pawns in the greater scheme of things. So you control the energy, you control the food, and then finally you control the money. And so as you see this unfolding, when you know the great grand scheme, you'll just think, oh, that makes total sense. Now, I believe that this drought that we're in and this heat wave is man-made. Now, you can call that conspiracy if you want to. That's up to you. You're probably the same person that thought that they couldn't create a virus that'll shut down the world. So good luck with that. Let me show you what I mean by this. This is an example of man changing and creating weather.
2003, after looking into the program in the 90s coming out of a drought. After some research, it became clear cloud seeding wasn't the silver bullet to get out of a drought.
But it is effective as a long-term water management strategy.
So what is cloud seeding? It's not humans creating a storm. Instead, cloud seeding acts as more of a nudge to Mother Nature to help increase the amount of precipitation.
You can sugarcoat your words all you want, boss, but cloud seeding is humans creating a storm. I don't give a shit what you say about it. And now, if you are naive enough to think that they can make rain and not take rain away, come on. If you have not heard about chemtrails, you haven't seen, when I was a kid, this thing is making funny shapes and X's and everything. So you can think that's crazy, whatever you want, but look into it and read about it first. So let's just say, first I'm going to go, okay, a little bit conspiracy maybe, but they didn't let it snow. If it doesn't snow, snow doesn't stick to the mountains. If there's no snow in the mountains, it doesn't melt, doesn't run into the rivers. If it doesn't go to the rivers, it doesn't go into the canals. If it doesn't go to the canals, it doesn't go to the farmer's field. So pretty easy way to change overall food supply. Now, let's just say it's a freak. Like, oh, it's totally Mother Nature, God, or totally, it's just a thing. Okay, bottom line is, which means there's still no water, which means there's still no food, which means that you don't get food. There's still a food shortage, no matter who is responsible, whether it's part of the plan or not. There's not enough water to make food, which means you ain't getting food, and or the prices are going to go up. I have a personal connection, a rancher where I hunt his property in northern Idaho. I reached out to him and said, what's going on? He said, drought. No crops. I said, what's that mean in big picture? No crops, lower profit. I'm going to have to sell a bunch of cows. That's what he said. Cows are going to flood the market. The supply goes way up, demand's the same. Price probably goes down on cows for a little while until they're all gone. And then now that there's this big gap in production of cows, there is no cows, which means the price of meat skyrockets, which is part of what they want because Bill Gates owns a company called Impossible Meats, and they want you to eat fake meat. Don't forget that the bigger picture of this whole thing is climate change and a certain agenda in regard to that. There are too many people spitting out carbon, and we need to get rid of them. That's why they vaccinate everybody, so they can kill off a chunk of them. Now, cows fart, and that's methane gas, so we can't have cows. That's bad. Cows are going to increase methane. Cows are going to make so that this global warming thing goes through the roof. So we shouldn't be eating meat. Instead, we should have Bill Gates' fake meat. Okay. Listen, Bill Gates is not the guy pulling the strings. Bill Gates is a puppet too, just so we're clear. But there's a reason why Bill Gates bought up a ton of farmland and they're not producing food on it. Bill Gates is the largest owner of farmland in the United States, including here in Idaho, and they plow it under and they do not make food. And so what happens when you pay a farmer for property, or you buy property at such a high dollar amount, or anything over $3,500 an acre, in order for that farmer to rent it back from you and be able to grow food, it's already pushed past that point. They can't afford to do it. It's not worth their time. So farmers are literally getting paid to do nothing, and or they're making so much off their land, they're selling it off. And I don't feel bad. I mean, I get it. They've been working their ass off for 30 years and they finally got a payday. You do the same thing too, so don't point your finger at them. But nobody's making food. So you got a drought, which makes it, if you want to make food, you can't make food. You're getting paid to not make food. And then because of coronavirus, there's a lack of shipping and cargo containers, and nobody is able to drive the trucks because there was no driving school and all the drivers got laid off because of coronavirus. And oh wow, this is weird. And now a shipping container shortage, and nothing's coming in from China, and China's buying all of our corn and all of our grain. And once we only have a certain amount of grain, our choice is very simple. Do we want to feed us, or do we want to feed those stupid cows? And people are going to go, oh yeah, you're right. Oh my God, I'm so glad you guys... Listen, ultimately, the plan is control. And the whole point of creating a huge problem is so that you can have the solution. They need to look really smart. You create coronavirus, you got a vaccine. You create a food shortage, and then you say, man, this wouldn't have happened if we had a centralized system running this entire thing, including the water supply. Put us in charge of everything, and you'll be fine. Remember, the motto of the 2030 agenda is own nothing and be happy. So, let's move on to one other video. This water thing is becoming quite real, especially in California, which they've been at this for years.
40 feet of sand at the bottom of this.
This was the last working well for the people of Teviston, California. It failed last month, leaving the entire community dry. The homes of some 700 residents connected to pipes with no running water.
But once we get the sand out, then we'll see what other damage, if any.
Frank Galabus serves on the local board managing the water infrastructure and has...
An entire town, no water. They're literally trucking water in from the next town over. So if you think that this is not real, it's happening. And someone you should follow is right here. His name's Ice Age Farmer.
Ladies and gentlemen, food shortages are now inevitable in the UK, according to industry experts, and printed in the mainstream media. And so this is a real milestone here. We're passing that point of demarcation where the media is openly, actively talking about food shortages affecting you and food prices rising. Let's have a conversation about that today. I'm Christian, and this is the Ice Age Farmer broadcast. And the bulk of the media coverage...
I would go check out the Ice Age Farmer. I watched a few different episodes, learned a ton, and I'm following him now because I think he's spot on. So, this is not like, this is not even conspiracy. I don't know if you're alive right now, but have you seen the drought? Food prices are going up, and food prices are going to go away. He started talking about they're calling for rolling brown outages when it comes to food, which means that you'll go to the store and be like, where's the apples? The hell's this? And they're like, oh, don't worry, don't freak out. The apples are coming in Tuesday. You'll run in on Tuesday, and there'll be like 100 apples. And people start to fight over the apples, and the cost will go up. So again, it's ultimately just about control. Why do they need the control? I don't know. Like, they think that they're smarter than us. They think that they own this world. They're acting as God. They think that they should have control over it because you're too stupid to manage your own water and your own food. And the way it's been done, right, is not good enough, so now they need to do it. So, question is, what do you do? Because I think this is an important thing. Buy a greenhouse. Plant a seed. Get a water storage container. Stock up on water. Buy some freeze-dried meals. Have 30 days worth of food in a Tupperware, like a tote, somewhere cool for you and your family. Last time I talked about food shortages was back in the lockdowns with coronavirus, and people like came at me like, well, I can't afford to buy extra food. Okay, well, you should have started in March, because I guarantee you could afford a couple cans of coconut milk and a couple other things. And if you would have started, you'd already have a tote full of food. So for those of you who are going to make excuses about why you can't buy extra food, please be creative. I bought a pack of seeds the other day. Seeds cost about $3, and they're going to yield probably a couple $100 worth of food. So you need to start growing your own food. You need to start storing water. You need to start watching Ice Age Farmer. He just had an episode talking about water storage. Listen, I just bought a gigantic water storage container just in case. I'm planting seeds. I'm late. I'm not a gardener. I'm learning how to do this. You know why? Because there's a need. And when there's a necessity, I have to act. Do I want to put a freaking greenhouse in my backyard? No. Do I want to plant do I want to be a gardener? Not even the slightest bit. But I have to figure it out because my family depends on the food, and I have to be ahead of whatever's coming. And so if you're going to sit there and think, oh yeah, it's a food shortage coming in October, I better be ready for... If you wait till October, you are being very apathetic, naive, ignorant. I don't know what to call you, but do your best. It may not be ideal. Don't beat yourself up, right? But start somewhere. Start with a garden. Start with something you can move inside, because if you're late, maybe you need to harvest it. Make a cheap-ass greenhouse in your backyard. Who cares what your neighbors think, right? Listen, I was on one of his forums, and there was a guy that he goes, hey, I live in an apartment. Don't give me excuses. I just harvested 300 pounds of beets. The guy went around and planted beets on public land where it was close to water, and people looking at beets, I don't know if you've ever seen a beet coming out of the ground, it looks like a weed. So nobody messed with it. And the dude went around and pulled up 300 pounds of beets, and now he's probably canning them. I don't know what he's doing, juicing them, whatever. But there's always a way for you to get food and grow food if you plan ahead and start putting this stuff together. This is not going to end. I'm sorry to say that. Coronavirus was a test. It was a bioweapon that they released to see how far they could push people. The goal is to make people sick. It's to kill older people, people of color, and people with chronic disease. We need to kill those people off is what their thought is. And then we need to use the vaccine to create the next wave of lifelong customers and create sick people. And, let's see if we can lock them in their house. And then once we lock them in their house for 2 weeks all around the world, let's see how the global warming thing does, because that's a big deal for us. And it worked. So we control the food, we control the energy, we control the money, which means you should be thinking about controlling your own food. You should figure out a way around their energy and start controlling your own energy. And you should start thinking about different forms of money. And one of the most important forms of money would be a barter system. Go meet some local farmers, go to your farmer's market. Happens to be tis the season for farmers markets. I would go make some friends. And whatever skill set you have, I would start figuring out who needs that skill set and how do I trade and barter? Because, listen, I'm all about cryptocurrency, right? I own some, but that may not be the thing. I like silver, also own some. Maybe not the thing. I am a chiropractor. I have hands, right? So all I'm saying is you got to start getting resourceful with the money so that when they come out with what's called the Fed coin, which they will, and so instead of a US dollar, instead of me being able to pay cash for something and somebody not knowing what the hell I just did or what I bought, now it's all going to be kept track of. They're going to keep track of your water. They're going to keep track of your food. They're going to short the food. They're going to change the food. If you're not buying seeds, start buying seeds. If you don't know this is coming, now you know. You have no excuse. Get your family ready. Let's go. 2030, it's going to happen before that, and it'll go slow because they don't want to just throw it at you because then there'll be riots and everybody will recognize it. The way you have to deal with apathetic people is give them very slow change. And the enemy's greatest weapon oftentimes is a state of apathy and deception. So as you're sitting there in this apathetic state, not really caring, or you're on your pharmaceutical antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, they just slowly lie to you over and over again until you're stuck at the very end. So snap out of it. Take advantage of it. It's an opportunity, but my time frame, my timeline is I got to be completely separate from all that long before 2030 because it's supposed to be done by then. That's based upon the people who are calling the shots and who are in control, and they're openly telling you, hey, here's our playbook. You're all going down. Sending out some links to email videos. So if you haven't joined my email list, it's drstephenbaker.com. Join the email list. I'm going to send that email out probably Wednesday or Thursday. Love you. Bye.